Time now to invite Mr. Anthony Ruggiero into our discussion. The Biden administration is closely working with its European Union allies on the Iranian nuclear deal. In case Iran returns to the nuclear deal, the U.S. is reportedly considering lifting sanctions on travel or financial transactions of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. Can a similar deal be applied to the negotiations for North Korea's denuclearization?
Well, certainly a similar deal could be applied. The question is whether it should be. As many of us know who followed the North Korea nuclear issue, we've had many of these kinds of deals where we have a partial lifting of sanctions for a partial restriction on nuclear activities, and that's exactly what the Iran deal is. Unfortunately, the Iran deal is not good for the United States, and it's not good for our allies. Unfortunately, the Biden administration is pursuing it. With North Korea, we're at the point where North Korea really needs to decide whether they're ready for complete denuclearization, which is very different than the deal that the Iranians are trying to get from the Biden administration.
So North Korea's top leadership made a very uncanny and unusual action, admitting that the country is indeed suffering dearly for food shortage and the COVID-19 quarantine measures. So how does the United States think about providing humanitarian aid to North Korea instead of lifting sanctions? If it agrees to deliver the aid, then how can it be done to make it compatible to the North Korean leadership?
Of course, humanitarian assistance is very important. There are many American and other foreign private organizations that are trying to deliver assistance to the North Korean people. That's something that we should all want to do. Unfortunately, the Kim regime makes that very, very difficult because they do not allow the kinds of monitoring that's required. But if the Kim regime is ready to do that, then I'm certain that there are many countries, the United States, South Korea, many others that would line up to provide this assistance. In terms of food aid, the other important part of that is COVID-19 assistance, which I'm sure that the North Koreans need, even though they deny that there's COVID inside North Korea. That's certainly something that the Biden administration could do, but it really does start with whether the Kim regime is ready to accept that kind of assistance and allow it to go to the North Korean people.
In various ways, recently North Korean leadership demonstrated its strong tie with the Chinese government, and China has been ramping up its traditional relationship with North Korea as well. Do you think China will provide North Korea a lifeline amid economic woes?
Well, in the past, the Chinese have done that. When the United States has forced the decision on whether the Chinese want to help North Korea or help the United States, the Chinese have chosen to help the United States. The question is whether the Biden administration will force that question. Part of that is because the U.S.-China relationship has so many issues on its plate. The question in my mind is, where does North Korea rank in those issues? You've got climate change, you've got the U.S.-China relationship, you've got arms control, nuclear issues, other nuclear issues, non-North Korea nuclear issues. So I think there's a opportunity here to have a conversation with the Chinese and try and come to some kind of understanding with regard to North Korea policy.
Mr. Anthony Ruggiero, a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. Thank you so much for sharing your insights for peace and prosperity today.
Thank you for having me.